gratuitas public domain parties.
This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by
nhliberty.org.
2006. Federal operatives drag New Hampshire resident Russell Canning from his home. Canning's crime? Attempting to distribute peaceful leaflets in an IRS lobby. It was an event which triggered his immediate arrest on the scene, but this arrest here was a couple days later after he refused to show up for court. Anyway, these aren't the kinds of scenes that you would see in a free country over peaceful leafleting. But what would we see in a free country? What would you do? How would you live your life if you didn't have so much stateside tyranny to confront? Let's say it's the year 2017, and the states have come together to abolish the federal government. Somewhat like the old Soviet Union, they've formed a sort of commonwealth of independent states, which really are independent. And New Hampshire is rolling full steam ahead with the abolition of all its victimless crime laws. How would you live your life? What would you do without a police state to oppose every morning? Well, I don't know about you, but I've given this a little thought. I remember how I used to live when I thought I was free. I had a pretty normal life. I had a corporate job in the mainstream media. I had a girlfriend. I had a charity that I participated in. I got involved in overseas conflicts, most especially the one in Bosnia. Even if I didn't perceive tyranny in the U.S., I could see it overseas. I played a lot of computer games. Since then, the same kinds of drastic misbehaviors we once associated with third world dictatorships have begun to manifest themselves here. It's become necessary for a lot of us to set aside normal life and become dissidents. Strangely enough, though, this dissident life is actually more enjoyable than the normal life I had before. I don't know about you. It can be scary. It can be uncomfortable in spurts. Maybe at some point it will become permanently uncomfortable for many of us. But there is a good chance that on the other side of this crisis,
Give us back our Constitution! Ron Paul! Revolution! Give us back our Constitution!
some of us will be able to set aside our political activism and our anti-political activism to do things we just can't do right now. They say thoughts become things, so why not give some thought to what you would do on the other side? There's a comment section here on the Ridley Report. Why don't you write it down, share it with us? I think for me personally, I might not go back to normal life. I might continue to be a political, anti-political activist indefinitely. It's possible that only the numbers would change. Because if you think about it, the current situation is we go to a federal building every once in a while. There's about 20 of us that protest, and there's about 200 people inside the building. How would that look in a free society? Well, it might look more like this. There are 2,000 people outside the federal building, the former federal building, and they're protesting not against torture or something, but against the fact that there's been a proposal to turn one room of that federal building back into a government office. Because, of course, by that time the building would be privatized. And the people are so wary of anything that looks like the old federal building happening that they turn out in droves. It's an inexcusable plan, the idea of putting a government office in that building. Because they all know what that building stood for before. That's how it might look. And you know, I would not consider it essential for me to be at a demonstration that already has 2,000 people. So I might do something else, but I might go just because it's fun. The thing is, in the future, we'd have more choices. We could do things we just can't do now. Or at least, we can't do them now without some risk. I think in a free country, one of the things I would do that I've never done is I would smoke marijuana and just see what everybody's been talking about. Actually, I'm afraid I'll really like it, and I don't really want to like anything that much if it's expensive. Get back to me when it costs 20 cents a hit in a free market. I might look into owning a home, something that is not possible today in the U.S. You think that place you're renting from the government is a home that you own? Maybe I'd look overseas again like I did in the 90s. There'll always be tyrannies there even if we don't have one here. Maybe I would tour the former United States, now happily reconstituted as the Allied States of America. Maybe I'd get involved in volunteer defense efforts. Maybe that would even be my main charity. Maybe I'd work for a company again normally, or start a bigger company of my own. Maybe I'd hire people. Maybe I could report on boring things like dances and community events. But again, what would you do in a free country?
New Hampshire's State House, among the least bad governing institutions on earth.
Gratuitous.
But even here, legislators plot theft and destruction. However, they don't do it without opposition. The New Hampshire Liberty Alliance stands in their path and stands ready to train you in the ways of the Citizen Freedom Lobby. Visit nhliberty.org to get involved.